Welcome to the Music Plug Podcast. Join me, your host, Pentadrums, as I take you through the captivating world of Uganda's music industry.
Sometimes I just sit there and hum something to myself.
That's why you listen to the song. It's like, love me, I no go treat you bad.
So there's a moral right and an economic right.
Catch all the exclusive interviews featuring musicians, songwriters, producers, and many more. The Music Plug, a double dose of vibes and info. Welcome to the Music Plug Podcast. I'm your host, Pentadrums, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. She goes by the name Lilly Ahabwe. She's a singer and songwriter. Lilly, I don't think I'll do justice to your profile, so please briefly tell our listeners more about yourself.
Yes, I'm Lilly Ahabwe. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I do R&B and soul music. I'm happy to be here.
So, Lilly, we are going to have a very exciting conversation. I did some research about you and I figured you come from a music kind of enthusiastic family. And I really wonder how that sort of upbringing helped you to shape your musical career, and if you can share some memories, what your parents did to sort of enable you become competent in this music thing.
Yeah, I grew up in a family whereby my dad was very passionate about church, and he was in the choir, so he encouraged us to also be in the church singing. We used to sing with my cousins. I grew up with my cousins in the same house, so we used to sing on Sundays, take part in the choir and sing. Sometimes we'd have our own original compositions which we'd make, and then we'd sing in church. My dad got someone to come and teach us how to play the piano. So that's something we did every Sunday, even though we didn't really want to. My dad is a singer.
Did it feel like a mundane task that you had to?
It was like we wanted to do other things, and he was like forcing us on a Sunday to learn the piano. So But my dad's a poet. He also, like I said, loved to sing in the choir. So, and my mom's an artist. So really, I think I just get that creative streak from them. They're also very avid collectors of music. I remember growing up, they had a huge collection of tapes, and they got me a cassette player. Yeah, cassette player and a CD. Later on, a CD player. So they used to collect a lot of music. I used to steal their tapes and take them to high school. I used to listen to a lot of MJ, a lot of country, Dolly Parton, Kenny Rogers, that type of thing, Mariah Carey, Celine Dion. And I got all those things from them. They had this huge, rich collection, Lionel Richie, all kinds of genres, rock music. So I grew up, it's even now to this day, my musical taste is so wide. I think it's because I grew up listening to so many different things. Interest really came from just listening to other people's lyrics.
So let's talk about the hit song that you did some time back, Baby Nsabo Beera Nange. Beera Nange, that's the title actually. So that song really took the nation by a storm. But then after doing that song, you sort of went away from the music industry. What made you to take that pause?
There were a number of factors. One of them being that I was still very young and inexperienced. The other being that I was in law school, and it was very hard for me to juggle law school and the life of being an artist, going to clubs and that type of thing. You're in club one night and the next day you have to be in class. For me, I found that difficult to manage. And just adjusting to that life of being like an artist. It's not something that I think either one of us was prepared for, especially me, who had zero experience. My colleague had more experience in that world than I did. Adjusting to being this quiet, sheltered girl to now being in the limelight. Everyone knows you. Even my friends in my class would be like, "Oh my God, your song!" That type of thing, like having that kind of attention overnight. From nowhere, it was just a lot for me. And then also just the things that we tell ourselves mentally. At that time, I did not have the best self-esteem. I had low self-esteem, really. That's something I struggled with throughout my childhood. And at the time that we released Beera Nange, I was just like this very, I didn't see myself in the way that other people saw me. Everyone saw this girl who was a hit song. She's very talented, whatever. I didn't really see myself like that. Like for us, it was just like we went to studio and we made a song and that was it. Like it wasn't supposed to be this huge thing.
Yeah, you didn't go in studio with the attitude
exactly
that we are going to make a hit.
Yeah. So I wasn't even mentally prepared for it, I think, at that age. And then also just like I think a lot of my parents' own fears definitely played into my own psyche. Like I thought my parents were the type of people who were like, yeah, this is not something that's, they would come with us to the club, that type of thing, which was awkward, but like they had a lot of concerns about what the music lifestyle is like.
So like your parents coming to the club, maybe to watch you perform, like how did they sort of receive that?
With concern, like we don't know if we want our daughter to be in this kind of environment. And I was the type of person who was very, and I think a lot of people can relate, who was very like cautious about what my parents think about me. So yeah, like if I knew that they were not very pleased about it, or like this doesn't make them super happy, there was some sort of hesitation on my part. And also maybe I did mention this or I didn't, but like there was a lot of pressure for me to perform at law school, and that also played a huge part in why I chose to leave, because I felt like I don't want to disappoint my parents and not like be the best in class and not do my best and get good marks and all that stuff. And I didn't feel like I could do that while still being an artist. Yeah.
So you need the good grades and there's also music.
Yeah. And
so you end up deciding to retreat.
I decided to retreat. And also I think at that time I wasn't really thinking about what I wanted. I don't even think I was aware of what I wanted. It's not something I'd ever sat down to think about. Even when we were doing like career guidance at school, I just went to the people who everybody says you should go to. I had never really sat down to think, what does Lily want to do with her life? It was always, what do my parents want me to do? That was like the script I had laid out for myself. So when it came to choosing between music and my art, it was a no-brainer. I had to choose, what my parents wanted me to do. Like I had to choose the path that they had set out for me.
Yeah.
So even if they never said don't do music, there was definitely an implied, path
that unspoken kind of
expectation,
attitude.
Exactly, that I felt obliged to see through.
Yeah.
So when it came to choosing, it was obvious what I had to do.
So after your break from the music industry, when did you decide to make a shift and bounce back into the music industry? When was that?
It was around 2019. At that time, I had just gotten a managerial position, so I had more time on my hands. I did not have to be in as much as I used to. So, and that it also coincided with a time when I was really feeling the urge to be back in studio. So I used to go every weekend. I remember I would leave work at 3 p.m. Then I'd go to studio. So I'd just go during my free time. And at the end of the year, I had like 20 songs. And I was, it's when I started to explore and like do the music again and go into studio and talk to people in the music industry that I started to feel like I'm getting back that spark. So something communicated to me in my mind that, I think this music thing is actually, we might be on to something. This is something you should hold on to. And so for me, that's where it started from.
So that is purpose to some people. Yeah. Some people call it purpose. You referred to it as calling.
Yeah.
There are very many terms for it. But it's very important because in those moments of silence, in the silence of your mind, you get to think about the most important things. And that's very crucial, because there are times when you just have a lot of noise in your head and you're
Exactly.
like, what's going on? Until
Yeah.
you sit down and listen
Yeah.
to what your heart is saying.
Yeah. And I don't think you have that chance when you're so busy. You can't hear yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, one thing I realized is it's like I was just it's like I was on autopilot. I was just existing. But when I got back into doing this, it's like I said to feel like, okay, now I'm actually living.
You released a song called Queen. I checked out its content and I was really, really impressed, I must say.
Thank you.
And you explore the theme of Black is Beautiful, a theme that is very pertinent and timeless.
Yeah.
Very timeless, because we know the struggles that Blacks have gone through. I don't want to prod it so much, but everybody knows. If you've read history, if you're very observant in contemporary times, what's going on, Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. It is a theme, however, that has not been explored here in Uganda. A lot of artists sort of shy away from it. I really wonder what you intended your audience, your fans, to take away from that song.
Yeah, it's interesting that you picked out the black
The
part
Black
of it.
consciousness.
Yes. So interestingly, that was not necessarily my intention when I was creating that song. My intention with that song was to create an anthem about self-love and empowerment, like knowing that it starts with you, like being able to embrace all the parts of yourself. Now, I include the issue of, blackness, because for me that was an issue growing up. I'm a dark-skinned girl, so I grew up not liking the fact that I was dark-skinned. There was this idea that dark skin is not beautiful, and I had that a lot, like growing up, like that type of thing. So it had this negative connotation in my mind of like, if people keep talking about it that way, it must mean that I am not beautiful, or that I am somehow less than other people. So for me, including the black issue was like a snapshot of how I grew up, of feeling like I was not good enough, or like I was invisible, that type of thing. And my skin color was one of those things. So that's why it's included in the song. And that song is basically me trying to like call back all the things that I threw away about myself and did not like about myself, and now celebrating them.
I actually want us to just take a listen to this song.
Underestimated, ignored, no one ever heard me, always been the underdog. I am smart, I am beautiful, I know, though it doesn't always seem so.
You're smart. One of the statements I pick away from the song. You're smart, you're beautiful, though it doesn't always seem so. That feeds into what you were saying, but I also feel like it feeds into the story of so many people in the world.
Yeah. It's a universal feeling. I think all of us at one point in our lives have felt like we are not enough. We all have something that makes us feel less than, or even the most qualified person can have imposter syndrome. There's that thing of feeling like I'm not good enough, I'm not this. So it's something that definitely I felt, although it originated from my own personal experience, it's something that I felt and understand is very relatable to so many. It's a common human experience. Yeah.
The other thing I'd like us to talk about is how you approach songwriting. What is your process like? If you could just let us into that process a little bit.
Ooh.
Give us a clue of how your process goes. Do you draw inspiration from your own experiences, or do you sometimes draw inspiration from other people's experiences?
It's a mix. I mean, my own personal experience definitely plays a huge role in my music writing process. But I'm also I also expose myself to so many things, and those things also influence my process. So it's not just about me, it's just the things I observe, or not even just people's story. It could even be a show that I've watched. It could be a sports game that I've gone to. Like sometimes I find inspiration in the things that are not even have nothing to do with music. You know, things that are not even that I'm not particularly interested in. I've always thought that the places that you'll find inspiration from are the spaces that you don't normally find yourself in. Like I've like even growing up, I remember I would be in the car, my dad would be driving, and you see like the slums, and you see all these people going about their day, and now something in me would just be like, I wonder what their story is. So it's like
you're curious to find out what happens in their world.
Yes, I'm curious to find out what happens in other people's world. So I like love watching documentaries and you know, just educating myself about things that are not part of my world, and that definitely feeds into my songwriting process. I try to make it a part of my process. Even other people's experiences. I could read a story on the news that I find interesting, and I'm like, I wonder what would happen if I wrote a song about that, you know, that type of thing. So yeah, like my songwriting process, yes, is based on my own personal experiences, because sometimes it's like therapy for me, like a way for me to get certain emotions out. But then other times it's really just an idea that I've seen that I find intriguing. Then I build on that. Yeah.
I have a friend who is a poet.
Yeah.
But for him, he doesn't settle until he writes that particular thing that's in his head.
That's bothering,
until he sits down. They call it poetic impulse. The moment it strikes, you get it. He doesn't settle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder if you also feel the same when you feel the idea is itching you, but then...
Yeah, that's why I have an app on my phone. I always tell people, like, always be, everything is inspiration for them. Everything, even this moment right here. Like, so if anything strikes, like any idea pops into my head, like I find those ideas to be so precious. It might mean nothing to you in the moment, but anytime something random enters my mind and it sparks my interest, the very first thing I do is just write it down. And I think that's important. Like if you're a songwriter or a creative out there, like make sure you always write down those little bursts of inspiration that you get, because there's a reason why you're getting it, and you never know what it could build up on. So for me, yeah. And I always revisit those things. Like if I feel creatively blocked or what, I go back to make a little note, like a place where I make my own notes, and then I see like, what did I write? And then it will spark like an idea for me.
So speaking of creative block, because this is something that all creative artists understand very well, unless someone is not a real creative artist. There are times when you're so productive, everything you write is so appealing. You're like, wow, this is amazing. But then there are times you look for ideas and you're just wondering what's happening. Your mind is like paralyzed. So how do you deal with creative blocks? Because you just gave us one hint, on how you deal with it. But are there other mechanisms of dealing with it that you have?
Disconnect from everything. Disconnect, and like sometimes it's about connecting with yourself, because it comes from inside you. Like I always tell people that I feel like, even though we are human beings,
yes,
there's like a whole universe inside us. Like there's a whole world on the inside of us, and but you have to be quiet and still to hear that word. So one thing that helps me is like meditating. Like every time I feel like I'm blocked and nothing is coming in, to me that's a signal that I'm disconnected. Because as a creative, you have a natural ability to you're like a vessel. You're always receiving and downloading things from around you to create. So if you lose that ability, which is
downloading things onto your hard drive,
it means maybe it's backed up. You need to clear some things, maybe you need to just disconnect. Go and spend time. Like I like to go and take a walk, or even just take a break from the whole music thing totally. Like just take a break, walk away from it for a bit and reconnect with yourself. You know, you could even go out and take a walk and then inspiration suddenly hits you from something that you find, even just being in that environment surrounded by trees or whatever it is that you find, or even just hearing the sound of nature in your ears, it could spark something. So for me, one of the things that helps me is just getting away from it. Yeah.
That's what helps you to reset properly. Come back when you're fresh.
Yeah. Yeah. So that you are proper empty vessel ready to
download
receive.
more.
Yeah.
I just like the word you used, downloading.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So the other thing is, what does your typical day as an artist look like?
It depends. It depends. It changes from day to day. But a lot of the time it's, well, of course I'm a mom. So for me, my day to day as an artist is also blended with my, my family life as well. So after I do, take care of my kids, take them to school, do all those things, my work day really looks like me going into the studio on the days that I have to go to studio. I shoot a lot of my own content. So I will have content days. I like to split it up, like my week. Like let's say I'll say Monday is for shooting content. So I will batch create stuff. And then Tuesdays I use it to do my paperwork. Of course, as an artist, you have to do things like make sure that you're registered. You have to make sure there's all these little admin things that you have to do, especially if you're doing it by yourself. Like make sure you're keeping track of your royalties. Make sure that you are your name. And I think artists should, if you haven't registered a company, at least register your name as a company. So even making sure that you do that stuff, like all the little business things that you have to do, keeping track of your finances, like how much did I get from this gig, that type of thing. So that's something I'll do on Tuesdays. Wednesdays, of course, I have my fellowship, whatever. Then I have to make time to also attend like a live gig. I love live shows. So every week I try to be in a musical space somewhere because it's a good way to connect with other artists, but also like get gigs if you're looking for gigs, that type of thing. And just see what other artists are up to as well and introduce yourself. So that's something I also try to make sure that I have time for.
And that's amazing. So, you see, in life, there is this idea that nothing happens in a vacuum. Like our meeting today.
Yeah.
It has not happened accidentally.
No.
It was determined.
Yeah.
Now, for you, you may think, we met the other day and then we scheduled to link up here, but it was determined like very many years ago by God. By the good Lord.
Yeah.
So it doesn't happen in nothingness. A tree, it doesn't grow out of nothing. There is soil, there is water.
Yeah.
Now, even artists grow out of experiences. They draw from other people and what they go through. So are there some artists that have had like a great impact on your music and the kind of sound that you deliver in your music?
Definitely.
Some artists that you can point out for us.
Yeah. Growing up, I listened to a lot of R&B music. I liked listening to Mariah Carey a lot. And I listened to Celine and Toni Braxton. I listened to a lot of R&B music, and R&B music has shaped a lot of the kind of music I do. I mean, even Beera nange, definitely was influenced by a lot of the stuff I grew up listening to. When we did that song, we were both of the mindset of we didn't like any of the music we were hearing on the radios. We just wanted to do something that we wanted to hear. Like that was our thought process. Like if this song was on radio, would it be something that would be excited to listen to? So that's what we were thinking when we did that song. And it's what I'm always thinking about when I create a song. It's like, is this something that myself, I would enjoy? But R&B music has definitely shaped the way especially the way I sing. Like the style that I use when I'm singing is borrowed largely from listening to a lot of R&B music. But then also, I grew up listening to Juliana Kanyomozi. Tiwa Savage is one of my favorites. And Simi. So those have definitely, I mean, even if you listen to Queen, I think one of the first comments I had when people first heard Queen was like, it kind of like your voice, the way you were singing the song, especially on the acoustic, it sounds there's a Simi-ish quality. So yes, definitely there are people that I listen to and they influence my sound and even techniques. Like I like to listen to artists and the things that they do and see if I can duplicate that and improve my own singing style. So I would say those are the guys that have had an impact on me.
Because again, creativity is simply bringing together very many components that have been existing and then mixing them in a unique way. We are now getting into the last segment. I want to play this song that you're premiering, your latest project. Let's listen to it. Controller.
Usually don't give it to no one. Now you want Zoza. So baby, if you want, you can take it all. You can take it all. Just promise that you won't tell nobody how I give love to your body. Boy, you got one blind, one chest. Can you handle it?
The Music Plug, a double dose of vibes and info.
So we now want some solo vocals. Yes. You're going to give us a chorus and a verse. Okay. Yeah, some really solo vocals right now, a cappella from that very song. Controller.
Drop a dangerous punchline.
Baby, let me talk to you, holder. Oli motora kafesi ninkarora.
Kasuka punchline.
Wana kweli mzivu controller.
Give us some juicy a cappella from one of your songs.
Let's go.
Wana kweli mzivu controller. Usually don't give it to no one. Now get one Zuza. So baby, if you want, you can take it all. You can take it all. Just promise that you won't tell nobody how I give love to your body. Boy, you got one blind, one chance. Can you handle it? Binevyechi twa vikowa. Zinembozi zo sizikowa. Yeah. Baby, give me one blind, one chance. Can I sample it? Zinevyechi twa vikowa. Zinembozi zo sizikowa.
Wow, I'm really impressed. That was phenomenal. That was really phenomenal.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there's just one last thing I'd like to find out from you. How do you stay motivated musically?
That's a hard question because I'm not always motivated, honestly. I think it goes back to having systems in place that help me. For me, it's about just being centered. Like every time I feel like I don't have motivation, usually it's because I feel burnt out, like, especially because I do a lot of the stuff by myself, and yeah, it's a new space. Even though I've been in it before, I'm kind of new to it. So there's so much to learn. But every time I feel that way, I recognize that, okay, I'm probably just burnt out. I'm just exhausted. So I
need to take a rest.
Yes, I need to take a rest. So for me, it's knowing that it's okay to take a step back from it from time to time and just find other things that have nothing to do with music and enjoying those things. And then also having this thought of this mentality of the same mentality I had when I first did that very first song. I did it because I love music.
Yeah.
I did it for fun. So for me, I just go back to that place. Every time I feel like, I hate this, I don't want to do this anymore, I just go back to that mentality. Why do I do music? because I love it. End of story. And the minute it stops being fun for me, it's like a sign I need to take a step back from it and do something else that's fun, and to kind of find that sort of place of rest. And then when I feel like, okay, recharged and re-energized, I come back to it. But that feeling of not being motivated, I think there's no escaping it. It comes. It's just how you deal with it.
So coupled with that, we have the social media thing right now.
Yeah.
Where they have trolls. Okay? We have to...
Yeah.
You're even smiling about that. So no one can escape trolls, no matter what you do, as long as you're a creative artist.
Yeah.
And you've put yourself out there. One day they'll come for you.
Yeah.
And these days, from time to time, they tend to come.
Yeah,
they
come.
for artists. So how do you really manage the toxic digital space, dealing with criticism from critics and stuff like that? How do you deal with that? Your coping mechanism.
Now, I just laugh about it, honestly. Like, not saying I don't feel bad about it, but the thing is, I just told myself that, look, if people have nothing bad to say about you, you're probably not doing anything. So, like, I remember when I got my first mean comment, I was so happy. I was like, I must be doing something finally. Like, for me, it was actually like a milestone. I was like, oh, okay. Now I'm finally doing something where people feel the need to say something mean, you know? So it's just, I think for me, it's just like an attitude switch for me. Like, originally, if I saw a bad comment, I would have been like back in 2020, someone wrote something that was so mean and so scathing, and it just threw me off totally.
And if you don't have a thick skin, you can even lose your head.
Exactly. And you can be like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. But like, I just decided I'm going to the mind is so powerful, you guys. Like, how you think about something, the perspective you have about something really shifts how you feel and therefore your reality. So for me, like, now I just said, you know what, if people are going to write mean stuff, I'm going to be like, I'm just going to celebrate it. I'm going to be like, yay.
Just laugh it off.
Laugh it off, because it means I have, it's better than people not writing anything.
Yes.
You know, like if someone feels compelled to write something mean, it means maybe I'm doing something that's affecting, that's triggering them somehow, and that's a good thing in my book. So, but generally speaking, I don't give, like, for example, some people will comment on those things. I don't comment. If someone writes something bad, I'll just leave it there. Like, okay, noted, and move on. Because I don't know the person, I don't know you. So I don't think that someone should have that kind of power over you, you know? But yeah, some things sting, but I think it's developing a sense of humor, learning to laugh at yourself is important. Yeah.
So, Lily, thanks very much for coming to the Music Plug.
Thanks for having me.
A lot. Give your parting shot to our listeners.
Yeah, it was so awesome being on the show. If you've enjoyed any of the music that you've had, you can find it on all streaming platforms. The name is Lilly Ahabwe, Lilly Ahabwe. And that song, the last song that he played, Controller, is actually dropping this Friday. So be on the lookout for it. It's going to be on all streaming platforms. And there'll also be a visualizer on YouTube coming. So yeah, and you can follow me on Instagram at Lilly Ahabwe and on TikTok at Lilly Ahabwe.
Be on the lookout for that. The song is Controller. It's dropping on Friday. So to all the Music Plug listeners, many thanks for tuning in. The Music Plug can be accessed on MCI Radio UG. You can also link up with me on all my socials under the name Pentadrums. God bless.